Hey guys, and welcome to Tabby Talks, where we chat all things fitness, business, lifestyle, and a little bit of shit. Now, I am so excited for this episode. We had a little sneak peek of who our guests were going to be on my Instagram stories a few days ago, and the amount of people that replied was just astronomical. And I feel like we're going to be able to attract a great audience with this, and we're going to be able to get a lot out of it. I feel like even I am just going to get a lot out of this episode too. So, well, I'll introduce everyone that we have on. So first up, welcome. We have, everyone is an IFBB athlete as well, which I think is really cool. So first up is one of my besties, as everyone knows, Taylor Maddison. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm
No
excited.
worries. And tell us a little bit about obviously yourself and how long have you been in the industry?
I'd say like 9 years now.
Wow.
So a bit of a
Jesus.
fossil. Time flies. Wow. But yeah, I started competing when I was 19.
And
So
how many shows have you done?
like 11 shows now.
Yeah, it's
incredible.
It's a lot on the
Yeah,
body,
that's a
man.
good
Oh, that's a lot on the body.
She's feeling it.
I am a veteran now. So, but yeah,
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having you on, and I think you can
Thank you
give
so
a
much.
huge insight into just so many different aspects of the industry, because you were someone who I looked up to before I was fucking like ever competed, and you're someone who motivated me for like my first ever season because I saw how hard you worked, and for me that was my standard. And
Yeah, I
as you
appreciate
know,
that.
a lot of people look up to me and how hard I work, but that came from somewhere, and like
Yeah.
that came from you. So
Yeah,
I
I
think
appreciate
everyone
that.
else will find that pretty cool. But
Yeah.
yes, we also have the IFBB wellness sexy bitch,
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Ruby. I didn't even say your name.
That's so fine. I'll say it myself. Hi,
the
I'm
sex
Ruby.
bitch.
I am the only one who isn't a bikini athlete. I am a wellness competitor. I have been competing. I've done 2 seasons, I think 6 shows in total. Last year was
Did you
my
do 3 shows in one season and 3 in another?
no, so 5. No, so 5. Yeah, so 5 in total.
Okay.
2 the first time, and then 3 last year.
Right.
3 last year.
Yes.
So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. And you're another person who I'm like, we always chat on Instagram, and I just think like you have a very similar mindset, similar outlook to life, competing, being open, being vulnerable. And I think why you attract an amazing audience around you and like your socials too is because you're just willing to not hide things from people. Like you're like, here's the shit, and
Yeah.
like this is the reality of it. But that's also why you've seen the success you have.
I think that it's important to have the tough conversations because people just aren't talking about the taboo topics
No.
enough.
Yeah, no, I agree. And lucky last, we have IFBB Pro. Laura, thank you for coming on
Thank you for inviting me.
and give us a little insight into you, because I know your journey has been completely different to the rest of us. But
Very fast.
Very fast.
I have done 1 show and I'm pro. No. So how many shows have you done and seasons?
All right, I've done 3 seasons and 6 shows. So one of those seasons was my pro debut with 2 shows in it, which was last year in November. And then before that, I've only been competing for 2 years,
Yeah, like
or like 2.5 years in total.
It's crazy.
And
Which is
guys, like
crazy.
for those people listening that don't really understand like Australian bodybuilding, like it is very hard. We have limited opportunity to turn pro. So the fact that like, well, I mean, to be honest, you almost turned pro in your first season. Like that was all of us.
Very
As soon as you
close.
were up on stage, like no one really knew you, but when you were up on that stage and we were like, who is she? But like you have this wow factor about you that it's like, it's game over. So even
stop
just like
it.
going
You're
into
making me
that next
blush.
season, like it is truly amazing. So for those listeners that like don't really understand Australian bodybuilding is very hard for us. So the fact that an athlete, a natural athlete as well, I do want to say that because I definitely think that's something you should be proud of, that can go and make a statement and now represent obviously our country is actually awesome.
Yeah, and I think because I did it so quickly, I'm still learning the sport now, which is fueling my fire more and more as I go into more seasons, because I'm
true.
like, I'm learning so much more about myself, about training, about bodybuilding just in general. Like when I first started, I had no idea who anyone was. I didn't even know what bikini was.
I remember when you said on the microphone, you were interviewed and you were like, I've never even been to a show.
Yeah, the first show that
like,
Are you kidding me?
I'm like, I've been to every season.
Yes, literally. I'd never even watched anything on YouTube before. I had no idea who Laura Lee was, Jen Dory, no one.
Sometimes
That's
that's
wild.
absolutely, but
I
that
think
is
that's
a
a
good thing.
Yeah,
I think
you
that's
have
a
no
good thing.
expectation.
Exactly, which is, I think, one of the best things you can have is just to not have any expectations whatsoever going into a comp.
Yeah.
Like not even about what the prep's going to be like, what the stage is going to be like, anything.
Were you following any of your competitors or you just had no
I
idea?
genuinely had no idea.
Yeah, wow.
You were the first person who I spoke to.
Wow.
Ruby was. Yeah, it
To
was
be honest, fair
backstage.
enough.
That's right.
Yeah, do you remember? I was just
Yeah.
standing there waiting for my tan, like looking down.
I hadn't seen
doing
your
my own
physique
little
though.
thing.
I hadn't seen your
No,
physique.
and then Ruby just randomly came up to me. She's like, "Hey,
Yeah.
what's your name?"
It was both
That
our
was
first,
it.
Yeah, it was both of our first seasons.
Yeah.
And we just like hit it off. And then I saw you on stage and I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Is
You know
that
the
the
funny
same
thing was,
girl?
I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm doing bikini. What are you doing?" You're like, "Wellness." I was like, "What is wellness?"
Oh,
I had no
that's
idea
so-
what
Yeah.
wellness
I love
was.
that.
And then
Yeah,
That is
same.
so refreshing that
yeah,
you just
I had
come
no
into it
idea
like
what
that.
it was. And then I was like, "But she's so small. How can she be bigger than me?" And then I saw her on stage and I was like, "Fuck."
You just like open up.
Never mind.
I was like, "Look at those glutes." And then I was like to Scott, "Should I be having glutes like that? Like mine don't look like that."
No, I think that's like a big thing that I want to chat about as well is entering the industry because we've all obviously gotten into the industry in like different manners. It's like, how did you even find competing? Like, how did you find Scott? And how were you like, yep, I think I want to be on stage?
This is so random. So I was a cheerleader for 8 years, which was training 4 times a week after work or school or whatever it was. And then I just loved competing, but competing in a team is very hard.
Yeah.
Because if you screw up, the whole team screws up. So it could be a team of like, I've been on a team of like 24 athletes before.
Yeah.
If you do one thing wrong and you're the reason that you didn't place first,
Yeah.
you feel the whole entire weight on your shoulders.
But it also goes the other way too. Like you could be
100%.
perfect and someone else fucks up.
Exactly. Or like, because cheerleaders are very big party animals too. So some people will be out the night before, they'll come in, they'll be hungover, vomiting. And you're just like, if we screw up because you do not land your standing tuck,
Yeah.
this is on you sort of thing. So it was a lot of like, you have to depend on other people. And it's very nice going into a sport where you just have to depend on yourself.
Yeah.
Like if you're not fully into it, then you know that you're not going to be the best on the day.
Yes, exactly.
Sort of thing.
What you give, you get out.
Exactly. So when we went into lockdown, I just got so bored because I'm such a physical person. So I just started training by myself in my room like twice a day
Yeah, wow.
and just walking around everywhere. And then I was like, oh, I wonder how much muscle I can grow. And I grew so much muscle within like 6 months.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah,
I
and then even when
wish.
I was in cheerleading, a lot of my friends kept on saying to me, like, you should do bodybuilding. Like your delts and your back and everything is just like huge muscle.
Yeah.
Because I was the girl on the bottom. I was throwing the girls in the air. I wasn't flying.
Oh, you weren't a flyer?
No.
Okay.
I was throwing the girls. We were up at level 4,
Yeah.
which is quite demanding on your body. And I was just like, nah, would never do that.
Yeah.
Like, couldn't think about building certain areas or anything like that. And then my ex-boyfriend at the time had a gym in his garage where he had quite a bit of weights and everything. And so we were just in there all the time. And I was eating so much food. I love cooking, so I was cooking food for the whole house and everyone at home. And then randomly one day I was just like, you know what? Why don't I try and get a coach to just like see how I go? And then I found Scott.
Oh, so Scott was your first coach?
Yeah.
You're still with Scott now, aren't you?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
Yeah, first coach. And then I literally just like sent him a really random email being like, hey, I don't even know if I want to compete. I just like want to see how I go with having a coach, learn some things from you. And then I think I sent one check-in photo and he was like, all right, I want you to do 2 federations, ICN and IFBB.
No way.
Yeah. And it was only at 12 weeks out, I think.
Yeah.
4 months later, we went straight into a prep.
Okay.
So I was only training with him for like 4 months before that.
Guys,
That
this
is
is not
just-
normal.
No, like the way that this all lands is so strange because then we only did a 12-week prep for my first one. And I lost like
Just
14
gets
to
better.
16 kilos or something ridiculous, like really,
Wow.
really quick.
Wow.
And it was only in my posing class, which was 10 weeks out. Do not recommend starting posing 10 weeks out. Even Taylor will say
Start your
this.
posing 2 years in advance.
Yeah. Unless you want to be like me on stage where you're just like, I have no idea what I'm doing in my first comp.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then Donna was like, I can't teach you in 2 federations. You need to pick one. And so we
Okay.
hit a front pose for IFBB. She was like, you're doing IFBB.
Wow.
So it was
Okay,
because of
that's
Donna
cool.
and Scott that I did IFBB.
good on you. I feel like yours has just been like so smooth sailing that
It's been so strange. I
where
don't
is this
even
gonna
know
go
what
wrong?
I'm doing half the time. I'm just like, what do you
I
need me
love
to lift?
that.
Okay, I'll lift
That
this.
is the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
I think it's important. There's a fine line between being like educated, but then being like overstimulated and like too much around you, because I know Taylor and I have had this conversation where we feel like it's just, we can't get out of it. And then now we feel like we're in this hole that we're sort of like stuck in, and it's like, it's not to say it's a bad thing or a good thing, but we're like, what else is there? And there is so much more to life.
Also so easy to get overly influenced by so many other people as well.
100%,
And then the fact that you're not stuck in that hole is incredible.
Like I'm waiting for the day that like Laura's involved in drama.
Oh, I know. Hurry up.
It's not happening.
No,
No,
not a
nothing
chance.
really phases me. Like I try to stay far away from all that because I'm just like, this is an individual sport.
It is.
Yes,
yeah.
you can have your teammates like Team Goble and everything like that.
Love it.
But at the end of the day, you're not relying on them for anything. So why be involved in drama?
Agreed.
Like, it's just not worth it.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah,
Because
because
it's
it's
really good.
working.
Yeah. It's really good.
So what about obviously like Ruby, Taylor, how did you find your involvement into the industry, and what did you feel like were your hardships in like finding your feet, and when did you sort of like know that, yeah, bodybuilding is kind of what I want to do?
Mine's a little bit more traumatic. It's not something that I will talk about often, but I'll go into a little bit of it. I lived overseas for quite a few years. I was overseas for 4 or 5 years, and don't want to get too dark too quickly, but I was in a pretty domestically abusive relationship for a long time, and I spent hours and hours and hours in the gym just training with my PT at the time, just trying to avoid going home.
Oh, wow.
So that was pretty hard. But then I started following people like your Hattie Boydles and all these incredible influencers who just were empowering and were so independent as well. And I was like, I want to be like them. I was so codependent on the person that I was with that I didn't have my own voice and I didn't have my own life, to be completely honest with you. So training took me away from that. And for even just a small period during the day, I was able to, find my power and the fire inside of me. Obviously, I was able to walk away from that relationship at some stage, and I moved back to Australia, which was awesome. And then again, we went into lockdown, we went into COVID, and then at that stage, I had only really trained in the gym. I hadn't tracked any nutrition at that stage. And then I came across Mike. And so, because I was like, I might compete. I was really interested in the competitive side of it because I'm just a highly competitive person myself, just through sports backgrounds as well, not probably as rigid as you with the cheerleading, but with netball and team sports, I was always competitive. And so I was like, let's just see what it's like. So yeah, got a coach. Mike was my first coach. And to be completely honest with you, he's just built me from the ground up and I haven't looked back.
Wow.
But I've just been so fixated on this goal for the last 2-3 years that there's been nothing else.
Yeah.
I think like one thing I just want to quickly take away is, okay, we have Laura, like IFBB Pro, then we have 2 like national champions. All 3 of these girls have had the exact same coach from when they started, and I know Taylor has as well, to now. And look how successful they are. So if you're thinking like you need to change your coach every year as well, I think like just take that, if you can take something away from here, it's like stick with the basics, stick with your routine. Like we've all been in the industry for a little bit, or at least had the same consistency for a while now. Like stick at it and like find your feet, and eventually something good will come out of it too.
Yeah.
The more you work with a coach, the more they'll learn about your body as well and how to manipulate certain things and what works for you in particularly. So I think that that's so important. Like there's no secret recipe. At the end of the day, I think that you need to find a coach that you can work with, that you can trust,
Yes.
and you can have open and honest communication
Vulnerability.
with. But yes, that's exactly right. But I think that as long as you have that and they have the knowledge to be able to, take you through the process, you guys are just going to keep getting better at collaborating along the way. So
Agreed.
yeah.
But
What
I
about
see,
you, Tay?
I see a lot of people changing coaches just for the sake of changing coaches.
Yeah.
And I think
They're trying to
just-
follow a trend.
Yeah, trying to follow a trend.
Yeah.
And I think just give your coach some time to like learn your body and trust them, So
If
yeah.
your coach can like physically, like you can see them getting results with other clients, creating transformations, it's like they clearly know what they're doing. If the coach is actually educated, which we've all got educated coaches, like they're bound to just need some more data, some more info. When everyone's body responds differently. So once they can get a gauge of that, you can get a gauge of yourself too, because I know like I've struggled in some preps too because I couldn't listen to my body. I wasn't listening to my body because I didn't have the maturity and the understanding of how to as well. So that took me time to understand my body to be able to give proper feedback to my coach too.
Yeah.
But what about you, Tay? I know you're a little bit about your journey, but do you want to give us?
Yeah. I started bodybuilding when I was 19 or 18. That's wild. Which is quite a while ago now. And I was studying music theatre when I was 17, 18 at uni, and which is my other passion to bodybuilding. And I was like always in the gym, just like cooking. Like I just had a passion for that outside of that. And I actually left my music theatre course to start studying nutrition. And then once I started that, I don't know where I wanted to do a comp. I think I stumbled across like Ashley Kay somewhere. And I was like to my mum, I really want to do a comp. Like,
Did
I really
you know
want to do
Troy
this.
at this point?
No.
Oh.
My first coach was Enterprise Fitness.
Okay,
so I did one prep with them for ICN or IMBA it was at the time. And then I went to Troy
Right.
like a year later.
Okay.
And I remember like just being like, I really want to do a comp. And I was like, I had no money and I was like begging my parents to pay for this like upfront comp prep.
Yeah.
And they were like, fine. And then, I did the comp prep. And like you said, since then it was like vortex, like all in bikini. Nothing else mattered. I want to get a pro card, you know? So
I think
that's where it started.
It's such like a hit and miss kind of like topic, and I was explaining to you guys before this that I'm hating where social media is at right now, because competing is like so glamorized. When I see how much it's impacted me, yes, I wouldn't take it away for the world. Like it's gotten me to where I am, thank you, but it's also led me to some really dark places too. And I feel like that aspect is not spoken enough about either. Like it is so glamorized that people assume that just because they're training that they're like, yep, I need to do a show because I'm in the gym, I'm getting into shape. You do not need to do a fucking competition because like you're in the gym and you
Do
want
a photo shoot.
Do a photo shoot. Babe.
No, but like it's
100%.
like that natural like progression of you don't need to see someone on Instagram and say, I need to do that. If you're not passionate about that process and don't think about it. Like you're allowed to do health and fitness just because you can do health and fitness. You don't have to get into stage lean condition.
Yeah.
Because let's be real, it's not healthy.
No, not
It
at
fucks
all.
your body.
So no one can tell me
For
that
months
bodybuilding
in
is healthy.
No, it's
Nope.
not. It's I feel like the sparkly bikini, it just because everyone's doing it, it's made to be this glamorized thing.
Yeah.
And I don't think competing should be a mainstream thing.
No.
It should
No,
be
not
like
at all.
5%
It's an extreme sport.
of the population. And I personally don't think, and I feel like people will take this the wrong way, that not everyone can handle it mentally or physically. And
not at all.
that's the way it should be. Not
the
everyone
thing.
can be an F1 driver.
No.
Like
No.
1%, you know. So I just think everyone's doing it and fucking themselves.
Yeah. Some people just don't have the resilience
No.
physically to handle the extremities as well. I think that a lot of people are falling in love with the results first before falling in love with the process.
Yeah.
So like I trained for 4 or 5 years before I even stepped on stage, and I'm sure obviously not in your case, but for the most part, like you train in the gym and you fall in love with the process, and then the natural progression is you jump on stage. You don't go, oh, I love what she looks like. I'm not training yet, but that's where I want to be.
Can I start a cut now and get into that condition?
Exactly.
Go in the gym first. Would you do this without Instagram, without social media?
Exactly.
Get rid of Instagram.
If you were shredded, would you still wear like a hood? Like, do you know what I mean? Or
But
do you
it's
just
like,
want
are
to
you
show
doing
off
it to
and-
look like someone, or are you doing it because you want to challenge yourself?
Yes.
Yeah, also like a try before you
And you
buy
wanna
sort of situation.
yeah.
It's like try it first before you completely just dive like head first.
Agreed. But then the question to that is, if someone's asking, okay, well then how do they know they're ready to get on stage?
Okay.
Okay, I'm coming to you as a client. Ruby, I want to compete. Where would you go with that?
So, firstly, how long have you been training in the gym? Why do you want to compete? Just ask them those questions.
what's your fucking
What?
why?
Yeah.
the why
Where's your
is
why?
so
Yeah.
big.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Do you love the process, or do you just want to do this to test yourself? That's my biggest pet peeve. The people that come to me and they're just like, I just want to do a one
wanna
off comp
prove to myself that I can
prove
do
to
it.
myself that I can do it.
Or
I'm
the
like,
experience.
just do a cut and do a photo
Experience.
shoot.
Experience what?
Like the extremities.
Starvation.
After it is not good.
Yeah, the extremities are not worth those long-term health risks. I'm
not.
sorry,
And
but
people don't realize that after prep is, in my opinion, the hardest part.
yeah.
Like
Oh my
during
god.
prep, you can keep pushing because you're striving towards a goal. When you're done with that goal,
Yeah.
you struggle hard.
It's
That's the
hardest
hardest part.
And you know what? I think that's what. I think that is kind of what shows who the athletes are
Yeah.
in kind of that reverse stage. And I understand, like, I've had my difficulties post-show. I think, like, we all sort of have in different avenues. But it's like when you see that person who was just doing it for the stage, they get off stage and they don't know what to do next. They get the post-show blues. Some people are blowing out. Some people are just doing
It's a dark
absolutely whatever. It's
time.
a fucking
It's a
dark
very
I
time.
don't think it
time.
gets easier though. Like for me, I've done so many seasons. It hasn't gotten easier. I know how to manage it so much better now.
And
And I
isn't
have
that
so many
crazy?
tools in my toolbox that I'm not like a first timer where I'm like, oh no. I'm expecting to feel a certain way and I know I'm going to feel the same
You're
way.
ready for it.
I'm ready for it. I've got the tools, you know.
That's interesting.
I think that is normal. You mentioned that obviously it like sets the athletes apart from just the people who are doing it for the wrong reasons. But I think that it's also so abnormal the first time that you go through the process and you don't really understand what is like how it's going to feel for you through that process. Like I didn't have food focused behaviors at all before I started bodybuilding. And I
Same.
honestly
I had neither.
didn't like think about my next meal. I didn't think about like tracking my macros, but I went through my first prep and it wasn't until going through my first prep that I struggled with like binge eating, you could say, or disordered eating in some way or another. And like I do still consider myself an athlete and that I was doing it for the right reasons. I don't know, maybe I wasn't, but I didn't have those issues until I went through my first prep and all of that rigidity and like
I agree.
I'm the same.
Yeah, I telling Taylor the other day that I'm like, I just want to go to the fucking movies and eat
Have some
popcorn
popcorn.
Yeah.
We
instead of
always say
taking my
that.
meal prep.
That's the thing. You start to fixate on what you can eat when you go places instead of just the experience that you're going for.
yes.
Like you start to think about food so
And when did
much.
that happen?
Yes,
Exactly.
And
You
I-
don't even mean to.
No.
And I feel like for me, like I played netball at a high level, like you've done sports, like I was fueling my body for the performance as well. And now it's like aesthetic purposes. So it's completely, even though we're training in the gym, it's like, okay, everything is for my aesthetics.
Yeah.
And it just becomes it's so hard to not be that like way. Like you can't.
Yeah.
It's not, there's not an answer to it either. There's not someone who can be like, yep, you can do this and your relationship with food's going to be fixed. And I don't think people realize the extremities of going into the sport. Like my life will, and all of ours will actually never be the same again when it comes to
not at
food
all.
because of this sport. That's not to say it's a bad thing either. I don't want to like highlight just the bad things and say like competing is so negative, it's going to ruin your relationship with food, because no, it provides you education, it provides you knowledge. Also, we are all very health conscious. We're consuming whole foods, we're consuming good things, but then there is that fine line to, okay, is this dictating my behaviors?
There's a
and
dark
taking
side.
It does
over.
create a little bit of food freedom as well. I understand that we're obviously more food focused, but because of the education and the knowledge that we have behind like what we're eating now, it does create a lot more freedom to be like, okay, so, you know, I'm eating 4 meals a day, and like we're obviously trying to be a little bit more intuitive at the moment without having a bodybuilding goal. We can look at a meal and be like, okay, so there's, you know, 50 grams of protein in that meal or 30 grams of carbs. Yeah, it's like we shouldn't really be fixating on every little nitty gritty, but at the same time, it's like, you know, if you've got a goal and you're able to do that intuitively, that's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also true because we're coaches as well. We have to then put it onto our athletes if they're struggling with this, when it's things we've struggled with ourselves. But I also think because the niche that I kind of work with is girls who wanted to come to the industry, or girls that want to kind of come into the space and improve their health and fitness. But like, because we've actually fucking gone through it ourselves, and even sometimes we are still in it, it's like we can provide that comfortability that where they can be vulnerable and open about it and direct them, because like I said, there's not just like a one answer fits all approach where you can heal them, but you've got to be able to navigate these things. And I think that's another important thing. It's like, how the fuck do you know that like your coach is right for you? Like, how have you guys gone about it, and how have you been like, yeah, this is, because like I said, we've all sort of been with the same coach for like from start to finish. So when did that solidify to you, and what do you think the key things are that you should look for in a coach?
Communication. That's number one, I think.
Empathy,
and someone to keep you accountable. I think that's something. And obviously their results, like you said, if they've got good results. I just feel like you just feel the vibe, like if you gel with them or not. It's a vibe.
It is a vibe.
You have to vibe with them. Like, otherwise your check-ins are boring.
Agreed.
Like, gonna be so boring.
Yeah.
But I almost feel like you have to kind of look up to them in some way as well.
You want to
you want to look at them and be like, oh wow, like I aspire to not necessarily look like you. I don't aspire to look like Mike. Sorry, that's
Shout out to Mike.
Yeah, shout out to Mike.
We all want to look like you.
You look amazing, but I do not want to look like you. But yeah, like, but the way that he is and the values that he has, I'm like, wow. He hasn't just been a coach to me, he's also been a mentor. And for people that are coaches, like us three, like to have a mentor as a coach themselves, I honestly, a lot of what I pass down to my clients, I've been taught myself from my coaching experiences.
Yeah.
So
I think like one big thing with Mike is like you can look at his Instagram and you can just see his like, you can see his aura. You can see what he
And just
stands
passion.
for.
He
and
just
he's
gives
so
so
passionate.
passion.
Yeah.
I love it.
he cares so much.
Yeah.
Too much sometimes.
Yeah, but he is. It's like a family for him, and
Yes.
he gets. I haven't seen an athlete of his that looks horrible. Like
Never.
He cares about them all, and
The
same with
attention
Troy,
to
same with
detail.
Scott, like,
And that's what, like, when I first went to Troy, like, I felt like he was the first person that believed in me and, like, saw the vision that I felt.
how nice is that?
And I felt like that was like a lock-in.
Your coach should want your goals.
And he
as
was
bad as you
like,
do.
and even, like, this prep, you know, like, it didn't go to plan, but he was like, you can get this. Like, you can win. Like, it was just, don't cry. You know what I mean? Like, just having that same vision.
Yeah, it's a fine, like it's kind of hard, but even like with me, like Scott was just someone, like I love humor, I like being funny, and I like kind of, but also like pull me up on my shit too.
Yeah.
So when
He's not afraid to tell you when you're wrong.
not afraid to tell you what it is, and like you are gonna get your feelings hurt in this sport. You are getting up on stage in a bikini, like to be judged. Like you're gonna get your feelings hurt at some stage. Like everyone's gonna lose. Everyone's gonna have a time where post show you're gonna cry. Like I've come off stage and cried, not even because of a result, just because I was just like so emotional. Like the sport just brings everything out of you, and your coach needs to back that. And I put a lot of that, what I like, into my girls too, because not every client that comes on board with me I'm going to vibe with. I'm just not. And that's why sometimes it doesn't work. But also why some of my clients have been with me for 4 or 5 years, because you either vibe with them and some people you just don't. And I think that's fine.
Yeah. You don't want a coach to be too nice either. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to. You don't want a coach to blow smoke up your ass 24/7, and every single time they sit in a check-in, for them to be like, "Wow, you're looking amazing. You're doing great." It's like, no, give me some constructive criticism.
Yeah, like they can tell you look amazing, but they can say like, no, we need you to be a bit tighter here and here. So this is what you need to do, sort of thing.
But you need to be able to take criticism as an athlete as well, and not just be insulted by it.
Oh, you need to be a coachable client at the end of the day. Like some people aren't coachable, and to be honest with you, I'm the first person to say within like even the first couple of weeks, I'm like, you're just not ready for this. You're not ready for this coaching process. Like you haven't followed one check-in to T. You haven't filled out your data. You're not doing your check-ins. Like, what are you paying me for? Like, this is a premium service. Like, you need to get your head in the game before, you know, you're actually.
But I feel like you learn that as well. Like, I remember when I started in the industry, I don't think I was a coachable client to Troy. Like, I was whereas now I'm a lot more open. But I had to, you know, like, learn to be coachable
and learn that it
in
is
the
okay
industry.
to.
Absolutely.
As long as you're open to it.
Yeah.
As a coach, you can't expect perfectionism from your clients in the beginning, in particularly if they are beginner-based, because it's just something they're learning the ropes as well. Like if they haven't tracked before, this is so new to them. You have to be a little bit empathetic towards the fact that they might, you know, slip up from time to time. Yes, they need to be a coachable client and listen to what you have to say, but at the same time, even if they're about 80%, out of that 100%, then that's okay. Like you can turn around and that can still be a coachable client.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And it's during different times as well. Like for example, like we'll go into some of the questions we got on my Instagram, but the first question was in regards to reverse dieting and tips on how to navigate the changes and your changes in weight.
Oof.
And
This is a hard one.
it's such a even the question
It's
just
very
makes
loaded,
it's
very
very
loaded
loaded, and
question.
it's like, okay, where do I start? But again, during that reverse time, like the vulnerability you need to have with your coach, I think is like everything during that stage. Like I know for me, sometimes in my reversal, I'm talking to my coach more than I am in a prep. I'm just ticking the boxes, like cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's go into like Tay, like we can chat about obviously some of your post-show experiences and how have you felt like you've managed with weight gain or just the emotion that comes with it.
I feel like this prep was the hardest for me because I was inside out, like leanest I've ever been. So seeing even just a little bit of fat come on me, I was like, that was hard because I haven't been that lean before. But I think it sounds so cliche, but you've got to accept yourself and love yourself, you know, no matter what body you're in before you do a prep. That's the first thing. But yeah, I think staying on track with your check-ins, like when like post-show, making sure you're still doing check-ins like once a week, communication with your coach, incorporating a little bit of balance is super important as well, and getting out of that rigid prep phase. But yeah. What about you?
I think in a reverse phase, it's really important to maybe shift the focus from a less external goal and for it to become a little bit more performance-based.
Yeah. Health-based too.
A bit more
Yeah.
health-based, a
Trying
bit more
to get healthy.
performance-based. If I'm being completely honest with you, we're talking about being a coachable client before. I'm probably the least coachable client when it comes to that reverse period because I do struggle with it a lot and I always have. And I think the rigidity, I just go, well, I can justify eating a little bit more now. The goal isn't this close. The goal is, you know, maybe a year from now or 2 years from now. So let's just eat and then I'll fix it later. So I give myself a few more justifications during that time. So at the end of the day, I'm definitely not perfect. I wish that I was. I consider myself, you know, a high level athlete and a good bodybuilder. But at the same time, like what I am telling my clients is not always what I'm doing myself. I can sometimes be a little bit of a hypocrite.
Yeah, but I think that's
So-
okay.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
Well,
that's-
okay, but like what's someone tell me what's a perfect reverse?
Oh, I don't
That's
know. I've
none.
never had one.
Yeah, have you guys, I was going to say, have you guys ever had the same reverse?
No.
It's always been so different. So it's
Yeah.
literally whatever works for you in that moment.
Yeah.
How do you feel like you've navigated obviously your reverses between your shows?
They've always been different. So my last reverse, I got extremely sick in Japan for like a week straight. So I couldn't even eat.
Okay.
Yeah, wow.
At all.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was so bad. I think I had one day of being able to explore Japan after being sick
Oh,
because that's how bad it was.
You have
Yeah,
to
it
go
was
back.
terrible. So I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to eat whatever I want
Yeah.
Yeah.
because I haven't been able to eat at all. So I guess it really is how you feel. And a lot of people say, how do I not binge eat? How do I navigate all that? I'm like, this is probably the worst advice I can ever give someone.
Yeah.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm
She's
just
not the
like,
coach here.
no, I'm not a coach here. But I think you need to, if you're feeling like eating something, eat it and see how shit you feel to know not to do it again.
No, but that's so true. I completely agree with that because the first
Now
time
I'm
I
terrified of being full. Like I will never be full.
The first time I went through that process and what I tell myself from here on out now, and even the last reverse was a lot better because I will consistently tell myself that like I know exactly how that made me feel before and I don't want to feel
Yeah.
that again.
Protect
Think
your
about how you
Like
feel after
the
it.
physical, the mental was not fucking
but then you
worth it.
then you learn how to like slowly feed those things back into your diet.
yeah.
Instead of being like, I want to eat this whole pizza right now. So you'll be like, no, I just want to eat one piece, see how I feel. If I feel okay, I'll have another piece.
Do you guys
sort of
find
thing.
that eating a little bit more intuitively during this time does help you? Because I know that it can help me within reason, of course.
For me, it doesn't.
Okay, fair
everyone's
enough.
everyone's
I
really
feel like,
different
I feel
though.
like I just have to keep it super in. My body's very sensitive post-show. Like
Me too,
if
yeah.
I put on weight like in 2 seconds, like I know that like even Troy's like, your body's just
I put 10 kilos on in 2 weeks after my first show.
But that's
I don't know, because like for me, I lost complete intuition.
Yeah, okay.
have been, for me, obviously with what I've gone through this year, it's been 6 months that I would say that I haven't been bodybuilding because I haven't trained, I haven't eaten. And it's been 6 months that I've been working on my relationship with food. And I can honestly say that it's probably only been the last month that I've started to have some hunger cues where I've been like, I'm hungry. Oh, I'm full now. Because before that, I was eating to a meal plan. I was eating when we eat meal 2 at 12 p.m. Like we eat at these times. And so it wasn't because I was hungry. I was eating those meals because that's when I've been told and what I've been told to eat as well. So I think it's like very easy to be like eat intuitively, but what is intuition too? Because we do lose that as competitors during that prep too, because we're literally forced to not eat when you're starving. So it's like if you have intuition, game over.
Yeah, intuitive eating straight after comp,
Not
a good idea.
No, I think you need. I think like 6 to 8 weeks is like
But that's the thing. That's the thing. We've all gone through it. So once it's been a few weeks or a few months after
found
that,
it really helpful. Honestly, I did.
yeah.
But everyone's different.
Yes.
Everyone's different.
Yeah. That's true.
Sometimes it helps you have that balance and have a bit of everything.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, I'm such an all or nothing person. I'm not having it because I know that. Like I just need to. But maybe like that's my OCD, and I'm too structured, and I'm too the other way.
I think that if you've got the education like we do, like when I say intuitive eating, I'm not saying that I'm just eating fucking anything. Like I am still eating to the same meal that I was eating before, but just a little bit more. And I might be estimating the grams, but because I've been doing it for so long, I kind of have an idea of what I'm eating. Like I know for a fact that I jump on the scale and at this stage in my, my goal, whatever, I am currently maintaining my weight because I'm eating around, 2,000, 2,200 calories every single day, eating the same amount of meals every single day, but I'm not weighing everything to the gram.
Yeah, and I think as well, like intuition is a very big aspect of health as well. You know you're healthy when you can just naturally go and eat something. You can stop when you're hungry, stop when you're full and feel satisfied from it, because it's like even chat about obviously like what you're going through health-wise, like since post-show, and how you feel like you've been able to navigate that as well.
I mean, it's not been since post-show, unfortunately. It all started towards the back end of my last prep. So I got on stage in immense amounts of pain. During my carb ups, I was actually in bed between meals, especially at the Victorian show. I didn't think I was going to make it, but I was extremely stubborn, and I was like, I've got to get on stage. I felt like I was this close to a pro card at the time. I wasn't willing to stop even for my own health, which is so scary. But when you're in it, you'll understand, of course. We'll all understand. When you're there and you're this close, like you're not gonna let anything get in the way.
It's
but
fucking like it's addicting.
With my health at the moment, we don't really know yet. I've been loosely diagnosed with IBD, some sort of irritable bowel. It looks like it could be Crohn's. But I've had multiple endoscopies, I've had an MRI, I've had ultrasounds, and I still don't have an official diagnosis, which is really frustrating. I don't know if it was brought on through stress. If it is autoimmune, they don't know why or how autoimmunes do come into place, but a lot of people do link it to stressful or traumatic events, which I think it's really interesting that came about, during a contest prep, because that's a pretty traumatic and stressful event. But so still don't have a diagnosis for that. Still dealing with issues every single day. My food focus definitely isn't as prominent because I struggle to eat food without being in immense amount of pain. Like I'm sitting here right now and I can feel the inflammation. And it does come out more when I am stressed, of course. Like I'm sure you would know with your health issues as well. You'd flare up when you're stressed. But you need to listen to your body. And I know I don't really know about Laura, but like Ruby and Tay and myself, like we've been in moments where we shouldn't have fucking prepped. I knew last year I shouldn't have prepped. I fucking knew in my prep because my body was fighting me. And Tay, I know you're the exact same. And the amount of phone calls we've had in tears to each other being like, why am I doing this? It's bad. I can't even explain that feeling. Like,
And what made you push through?
Once you're in it, it's really hard. It's like you don't want to. It's like you don't want to fail. Like you don't want to give up. And I don't know. Like my prep in 2022. Do you remember that prep when I had the black hair? So you know that I'm like a singer, for example, and I was like borderline hypothyroid. It was terrible. But I was seeing like a vocal specialist as well, and I couldn't, because I'm an opera singer, I couldn't even my voice was like gone, and I was like, I just know something's wrong. Like I just was like, there's something wrong here. I need to not. And then like looking back, I'm like, why the fuck did I put that at risk? that's crazy to me.
Because
but
it's taking something you love away from you.
yeah.
And like,
But that could have taken that away from me. And I was like, to me, that's crazy. But in the moment, you're like, I don't care. Like, it's like,
you
actually
care.
don't
Yeah,
care.
you turn into a robot.
Like in my prep last year, Taylor took me to the like hospital at like, it was like 11 p.m. at night one time. And I was in my prep, and I remember that's when I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism, and I got home from the hospital and obviously hadn't eaten. I had a bowl of Exo Crunch, and the next day I did a fucking extra hour on the Stairmaster because I'm like, I had a bowl of Exo Crunch because I've got hypothyroidism and I've gone to the hospital the night before. Like, I continue to prep. Why? Because it's like it's almost like an addiction, being like, no, I'm getting a pro card, or I'm like,
it is an addiction.
You set an expectation for yourself, and also you've got so many people in your corner as well when you're in a prep that are like, you're so close, you're nearly there,
the
like
voices.
all the voices, all the comments on your. I know it's really frustrating saying that like you care about what other people think, but when you're this close and when there's so many people commenting saying you're just about to get a pro card, like I came second in my show, and I don't want to put a damper on it, but I put 7 on my show, and all I got was sympathy after. Like, how fucked is that? I did well in a show, like really well. Second is a good place.
And you had people coming up to you being like,
saying,
how are you
I'm
feeling?
so sorry.
Oh,
and I can resonate with that, like being in a couple of overalls, like for a pro card.
Yeah.
And I felt like this show, there was so much less pressure for me because it was like, I'm not that next in line sort of feeling. So it was like, I could just enjoy the prep a little bit more. Whereas people be like, you're going to turn pro. And then
I did have that expectation for myself. And to be honest with you, I was like, this is my time. And I walked into that show being ready to get that pro card in that day. And it took me, and to be honest with you, it may also be why I have a little bit of resentment right now. Unintentionally, I don't mean to. Like, you don't want to be bitter for losing. But at the same time, like, I set this expectation. I didn't meet that expectation, and I was disappointed in myself.
But imagine anyone else who came second
exactly.
at a national show.
Exactly.
Like,
it's second place. It's a very good placing.
It is
but
very good.
And you guys battled it.
We battled, exactly.
No one knew.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, definitely don't want to ever discredit.
If there was a crowd of like 10 people there and you asked each individual one, they would all say different answers.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
That's when you know that that's a good
absolutely.
battle.
Yeah, 100%.
But I think for like
well-deserved.
Ruby, for Tay, and for myself as well, and I guess for you in your first season, like all 3 of us came second to the person getting a pro card.
Yeah,
so
true.
for us, it was all like that next show we have to get it. So it's addicting. And I fought through so many health battles. And I know like Ruby, even yourself, like you were telling us the other day that you knew, for example, like with your voice, like where things started going wrong.
Yeah. So obviously in an off season, but I'm like, how do I go into this? Just because I don't obviously want to open up too much about performance enhancements. But I'll talk a little bit about it because, I talk about it online, and I'm, it's something that I would like to open more of a conversation around, because I think it's extremely important, especially for people getting themselves into the industry in the first place. But I did a cycle a couple of years ago, and I knew that I was seeing side effects or even hearing side effects, and I just pushed through. And it wasn't until I was literally pulling out my hair in the bathroom that I was like, okay, something has to be done right now. And I obviously came off cycle, but like I was a singer as well, and I played music, and my dad will constantly, because he's a musician, he'll constantly ask me if I still sing and play piano. And like I was a singer-songwriter for so many years. I finished high school at a music industry college, and I was potentially going to pursue music as my career. I don't touch my musical instruments now because I just feel too traumatic about the whole experience, and that's what hurt me the most, absolutely. But because I was more fixated on the pro card and being the best at being the best in Australia, that didn't matter at that particular time.
Yeah.
It does now because I'm out of it.
Exactly.
And I look back and I go, was it worth it? Probably not, to be honest with you. But when you're in it, it's very, very, very hard to see otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can resonate with that.
How do you feel about that, Tay?
I don't know. That's heartbreaking to hear that.
Yeah.
I just,
Like I'll even try to sing in the car with like Jordan. Jordan is tone deaf, but I'm almost tone deaf too. I can sing in lower pitches, but I can't go from like one octave to like the next octave anymore. So yeah, it's sad, but it's okay. I try not to think about it as much, and we just move past it. But
It's why it's important to have things outside of bodybuilding too.
Yeah, definitely.
'Cause, like,
Absolutely.
I'm definitely not here like bashing bodybuilding at all, because I've got to say, if we all have got to where we are for making sacrifices.
Oh.
We can't get to where we are if we didn't make those sacrifices. Like I can look back and be like, because I got into the industry when I was 17. I started bodybuilding when I was that age as well, and started having a coach and planning towards a show. So people look at me and they're like, oh, but you never like went out. You haven't like done like Europe, and you haven't partied, and you haven't gone out and had fun. It's like, well, I made that sacrifice to be where I am.
But you
also
can always
you-
go
I
back and do those things if
go
you
and
want
do
to.
those things later.
could.
But if you want to get anywhere in life, like you're going to have to say yes and no to things.
But you've built your business, and we've
Yeah.
all built our business around
Yeah.
this sport, which has done beautiful things for me and everyone here.
Agreed.
So,
It's
yeah.
more so opening up the conversation that, hey, like things are gonna go wrong, and like you need to understand that before diving into it and just expecting that it's this like awesome, like fun experience, because there's fucking dark sides to it that like are not spoken about enough.
I think it's just mostly about opening up the conversation more than just saying don't do it.
Yes.
It's saying go into it, but understand the risks involved. And also maybe just do a show first
Yes.
before deciding to go down the PED route. Like I didn't do a show. I literally was taking
really?
I was enhanced on my first show. I went straight to IFBB wellness. Like to
didn't
be
know
fair,
that.
I had been training for 4 or 5 years before I jumped on
Yep.
stage, but I was an enhanced athlete. I could have very easily just gotten on stage to see if I even enjoyed the process
Okay,
before
true.
deciding
Yeah.
to take performance enhancements, because like I literally basically just said, that's all right, this is where I want to be, this is what I want to do, before I'd even tried it.
How crazy is that? You sometimes jump to like
Yeah.
jump to
Level
something.
100.
Because the process is so hard as well. It's like, what if
is.
I hated the process of prep? What if I hated being on that stage?
Yeah.
I love it. Don't get me wrong. That's why, like, in my head, I don't know if I'm going to compete again now, but I know I'm constantly going to crave being up on that stage because
Yeah.
it's such an incredible experience.
It
The
is.
adrenaline that you get from it.
oh,
you
absolutely.
you can't compare it to anything. Like so many people have asked me, they're like, okay, well, has these health issues opened your eyes up to about competing, and that it's not everything? And I'm like, okay, yes, it's opened my eyes up to competing's not everything, but it's also opened my eyes up to realize how much I fucking love it, because right now, from the moment I wake up in the morning to the moment I go to sleep, competing is on my mind. And it's not a whole aspect of I want to be lean and I want to look fit. It's that stage is addicting, and the process, it kills me to think
It's
that I
literally the
can't
process,
compete again.
yeah.
And if I can put that into other people and help competitors and help my clients, then I'm obviously going to do that. But it's something that you can't fake. Like we all feel it. We feel that passion. We feel that drive behind us, and that can't be forced upon anyone. Like I feel like you've either got it or you don't.
Yeah, you can't teach that.
We all love the process. That's the difference between, like, obviously people that are doing it for, you know, just the social media presence.
Yeah.
We literally, like, the reason why we're struggling to potentially walk away from it
Yeah.
is because we thrive in that environment,
Yes.
and we
Yeah.
thrive in the prep, and we
our
thrive
passion.
on stage.
Yeah.
And it's also the off season though. Your off season is so similar to your prep that it's just
yeah.
like once you're done with the prep and you go into an off season, if you don't want to prep again,
Absolutely.
what is your life then? Because you're just so
Literally.
used to just 5 meals a day, 6 meals a day, training,
Mm-hmm.
and waking up, going to sleep, sort of things.
Yeah, like I was telling you guys before, I'm like living with my dad at the moment. He has a toasted sandwich for dinner, and I'm like, what the
Where's the
fuck?
That is
protein?
so
Where's the
weird.
What are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
where's the chicken? Where's the rice? And because that's been ingrained in our lives for
Yeah.
as long as I can remember.
Love a vodka pasta though. Oh my god!
I need to do
But there's
that.
no protein there, so sometimes if I have to get
the
like a
chicken
vodka
in.
pasta, you just gotta have like a protein shake when you get home. Like,
But like, why? No, you
yeah, I
don't.
know how
No,
wild.
literally.
But like we've sculpted our whole identity around being a bikini athlete.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
your
that's
day-to-day
why-
lives.
For me, I'm like getting out of it. I'm like, fuck, like now I need to start being a little bit normal. Like,
Yeah.
I can't, what am I going to do? Compete forever?
Like it's not meal 1, 2, 3, 4. It's breakfast,
Masters.
lunch,
Yeah,
dinner.
we can
like-
also just be goal driven though. I think that like there is a rigidity and obsession to bodybuilding, but I think that there's not necessarily a bad thing about tracking or even like intuitively tracking, because at the end of the day, that creates a little bit more flexibility for us to just work towards our goals or even just maintain at a baseline. Like that we have to think about the performance side of things as well. Like obviously this nutrition is helping our performance in the gym. And I don't know about you guys, but I fell in love with bodybuilding because I fucking love training and I love the hardcore sessions in the gym. And to be honest with you, I think that's kind of what I'm looking forward to getting myself involved in a little bit more now that I have stepped away from bodybuilding just for a small period of time. I'm looking forward to falling in love with the training side of things again and the process. And then maybe if I obviously get everything in order, it may look a little bit different in the future. I might compete again. But I think that I need to fall in love with the process again first.
I agree. I think you can never say never.
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely not.
Because like I'm in a position now where it's like, yeah, I don't know if I can ever compete again, but it's like I'm still thinking about it 24/7. So as soon as I feel better, naturally it's going to come back to me that who's my coach and like, what am I doing? So finding yourself and that passion will never go away. And I think we all know that, but it's a big deal. And yeah, like I said, I don't think it's something you can be bought, but Laura, like a little bit about you. Obviously you've come into it not even knowing what a pro card probably is. And you wouldn't have understood the importance of it either. So it's like, when you did your first season, what was it that drove you to want to do it again to really get that?
Well, I wasn't even meant to do nationals.
That's right.
In my first season,
Okay.
And then I remember just before my first show, I only went in to do first time as a novice. I wasn't even meant to do open.
So Scott wasn't telling you like, hey, I think you're like potential.
No, that's the best thing about Scott is that if he senses someone needs a little bit of push in terms of like they thrive better when you tell them like, oh, you could actually do really well.
Yeah.
Then that's great. He never once said to me like, oh, you're a front runner.
I tell that to everyone. I'm like, Scott has never given me a compliment. Like, just tell me I look good.
No, like he'll tell me I
he
look
knows
great.
he doesn't need to.
He'll tell me after the show.
Yes. If Mike says good, you're like, oh my God.
Like, this is a good day. I'm like, do I really?
Literally.
He'll literally, I remember he would like watch me and he'll be like, good. I'd be like, fuck yeah. Oh my God.
He just said the G word. Oh my God.
Exactly. No, go on. What were you saying?
What was I saying? I
just what kind of like pushed you to want to do the next season?
Oh yeah. So after the first season, I didn't know what an overall was. So I went into nationals and then I'd won my height class and I was like sick getting off stage, like going to eat the lollies that are in the basket. And Donna's like, no, you're going back on stage. And I was like, what? I had no idea what I was meant to do. So she quickly like coached me through it and I was like, okay.
That's so funny.
Okay, I got this. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I got this. Shout out to Donna. You're a lifesaver. And then I got out of prep and I was just like, oh, I really enjoyed that. Okay. Like that was a lot of fun. And then within like 2 weeks later, I was like, hey Scott, want to do Series B? And he's like, yeah, all right.
So it wasn't even like, we're really close to a pro card, let's do it again.
No, that's the thing. If you love the process, you'll want to keep doing it. My body wasn't tired or anything like that. I was only a few kilos up. So we then just decided to start dieting, and then the prep I only went down in calories once. I was eating like maintenance.
Body wasn't tired.
She's always bouncing
I'm crawling
around
to the end by my preps.
No, I don't know what it was. I just
like I have so much.
I was ready to go. I cannot sit down or lie down on show day either.
No,
I have
she's
to be
always
running
bouncing around backstage with so much energy, like running around.
So
running around.
Yeah, always dancing backstage. Like
it's infectious. Like I think you need that backstage though too.
Yeah, 100%. It's
need
like
that
if you're
energy.
focusing too much on what you need to do on stage, which is the future, you're not going to enjoy that moment. So it's just like, even if it's you literally standing there waiting to go on stage, like I'm standing here and I'm about to go on stage.
So when's your next
Let's
show?
just enjoy this moment.
Yeah, well, you are obviously in prep at the moment.
I am in
so what is it well, I don't even know your next show. Have you announced that? Is it something like you keep under wraps?
Yeah, no, I never keep anything under the wraps.
Well, come on, tell us.
So whoever asks me, I'll tell them. So I've been in prep for 7 weeks now, I think it is. Originally, I was meant to compete in September in Hong Kong. The reason I chose that show was because my auntie lives there.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so I was like, sick, I can go and stay with her, don't just pay for
Free
accommodation. Yeah, and then I was meant to do UK and Europe after that because my uncle lives in the UK.
Cool.
So I was meant to go and stay with him.
Yep.
And so we started prep, and then a week in, I was just like, I really want to do this natural pro show and see how I go the Ben Weeder. But that's not till November. And Scott's like, I actually think that's a really good idea.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Because that's
it's
also
like you get your pro
Olympia
debut.
qualified as well.
Yeah, I was like, all right, pro show's out of the way, awesome. Got really good feedback from Taylor Maddison and stuff like that. So I was like, he's going to be judging that show.
If you don't mind?
my feedback was just to grow my quads.
Cool.
Because
Okay.
everything else is perfect.
Add some leg extensions, Scott. We're good.
I've never trained quads.
Oh,
either.
wow.
I've never trained quads. So we were like, game on. This is going to be
You
fun.
have the most ridiculous
Yeah.
proportions
Yeah, you look good.
and shape. It's
Everybody
just
do
phenomenal.
cheerleading, everybody?
Yeah.
I did cheerleading. Where's
you
my
go.
glutes?
Were you a swimmer as well?
No.
You were never a swimmer. Okay. You got the swimmer upper body, like.
Yeah, I get the broad shoulders
Yeah.
from my
The
mum.
shoulders, yeah.
And that's the thing. When I was a kid, I used to hate how broad my shoulders were. That I'd always be wearing long sleeves because I just hated how they were.
Yeah.
Then going into bodybuilding, when Scott saw me and he knew that I had 2 other sisters, the day he met them, he was like, "All right, you guys all have great genetics. Do you 2 want to start bodybuilding too?" But yeah, so I'm doing the Ben Weider Natural Pro
Where is that?
in Virginia,
Cool.
and then we were doing
That's
one show
cool.
before that and one show after
Nice.
as well. Just because if we're in America, you may as well
Oh,
do a few.
1000%. Will you stay
100%.
there for a little bit longer as well?
Yeah, I'm staying there for a week after.
Yeah, sick.
That
Yeah,
will
that's
be
gonna be
cool.
fun.
That will be
Yeah,
cool.
that's all in November.
And we'll slowly wrap things up because we're getting out of time.
Yeah.
But Ruby, Tay, don't know if you want to chat, but do you have any competing goals? What are you guys sort of thinking?
I just need to fall in love with training again,
Yeah.
like you said.
Yeah.
And the process. Like I
Yeah.
feel a little bit not into it at the
Everyone needs a
moment.
break.
You need a break, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I've had a break for the whole time I've been like in the sport. So I just need to chill out.
Never say never. Definitely want to just have like a good year off. Obviously, my partner is prepping at the moment. But even after this comp, I know that he wants to take a little bit of a break. And next year we're going to go traveling, which will be lovely. Just be normal people for once.
Yeah.
And just put some things, put some energy into other things, which is
It'd be
stressful.
so nice for you and Geordie to
yeah,
not be
so
impressed.
nice
can't wait
because
to
we're
watch the videos.
constantly
Same, us too.
prepping
Yeah.
together, constantly prepping together, or just out of prep, honestly dealing with my issues.
Yeah.
So it'll just be nice to just be normal people as a normal couple doing normal things. To be
Not
honest
think,
with you,
just do.
yeah, that's exactly right. So we're definitely looking forward to that. And then never say never on competing again. I need to get on top of all of these health issues first, and then potentially, but at this stage, it's not on the cards. It's definitely not at the top of my priority list at all.
Yeah, I just want to put a disclaimer out there as well for people listening too. Like, I understand like Ruby and I have chatted about a few health issues. Like, neither of us are saying that this is from bodybuilding.
No.
I do want to say that because that was, I get that question all the time as to whether what I'm going through is due to competing or not. I don't know. I'm sure Ruby doesn't know either.
Yeah.
Like, clearly stress on the body isn't good in any aspect. So maybe not. That's not us saying like, don't compete in bodybuilding because you're going to have seizures. Like, no.
I've just never been very resilient with the extremities, at all. Like my body just doesn't, you're the same. Your body just doesn't bounce back. Like I know some people are just able to do back-to-back shows. Maybe that might have to do with the fact that they're not obviously losing and gaining as much weight as some.
Yeah.
Like in my off season, to be honest with you, I'm like 15 to 20 kilos up from my stage weight, which I know is excessive, but 10 to 15 kilos is usually my happy place where I'm like able to maintain my performance is great in the gym and I feel good.
Yeah.
And hormonally, I'm in a great place. So, and then that from going from that extreme back down and then back up again,
up, your body's
that's
like-
huge.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Yeah.
I've always had to lose, but I don't think I've taken my off seasons. Like I've always just done whatever. Like I haven't taken it as seriously as probably I should have. So yeah, I've had to do crazy things to get in shape. Maybe that's why my body hasn't been good post-comp.
Yes.
Because I've had to do
I
crazy
agree
shit.
with that.
Especially right towards the end of a prep as well as when you're pushing the hardest.
Yeah, I agree with
but
that.
for me, like as soon as I start prep, it's like straight off the bat, I'm doing like because
stairs.
but my body doesn't respond, is not responding. So that's partially my fault. Like take your off season seriously.
Yeah.
Because I haven't, like I've never really have, and I've always started a prep like after I had COVID or after I had a nose job. Like don't start prep after a nose job.
Yeah.
My calories were on the floor.
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean? Like don't
setting
do
the
that.
prep up for success is so
Set your
important.
prep up for success.
Yeah, it's like I remember in my last off season, Ruby and Geordie would like come into Doherty's and be like, she's on the Stairmaster again.
every time, every morning. And like
Full-time
we didn't even
relationship
have
with the
cardio
Stairmaster.
included.
No.
Like to
And
be
I
honest
was
with
there
you, my
doing
preps have been
hours.
pretty linear and like not overly drastic like you just said.
I'm drastic.
Yeah, like I have always responded quite well, but I think that has to do with the fact that my off season has been taken so seriously.
Yeah,
And
that's
like
the
I've
difference.
pushed to those those levels, and like I'll start my surplus in like I'll be eating at like 3,600 to 4,000 calories,
Eat your food.
which is awesome. But then like I've got a lot of room to move from there. So we just have to do things incrementally and don't have to do obviously anything so drastic so quickly. Like, you know, an hour of cardio. I've never done an hour of cardio. I couldn't think of anything freaking worse.
I've never got into an hour
2 hours of stairs by the end of
That
mine.
is actually disgusting.
Yeah.
2 hours of stairs a day.
Yeah.
So
But that's
How are you
but that-
standing after that?
Yeah, I was not in a, I
I wasn't
not.
standing.
I remember what you were
rolling
like.
off that
You were literally doing
stairmaster.
an hour, or maybe not even an hour, but like on level 11 and like with on your phone as well. Like honestly, running on this thing, and I'm just there. I'm like, what the heck? I'm there on a level 6, dying, like for like 20 minutes max. But I'm like, I have no idea. I've never had good
Gotta run on
cardiovascular.
it.
She
I
takes
saw
after me.
Taylor running on it. I got to run on it.
She messaged
Yeah.
me, it's like, I go as hard on the stairs as you because you inspire me.
Tell you what though, I actually want to start running. That's so random.
No, we're not getting into
I swear,
this.
everyone who goes into an off season starts
Just
running.
I'm so ready to have some like good
Are we introducing
cardiovascular
bodybuilders
fitness though.
to running? Are we going to do running
No,
now?
we're
Yeah,
not.
let's
We're not.
become a hybrid athlete. Let's go.
Let's all enter High Rocks this weekend.
I genuinely was looking up the dates for it for next year.
What?
Like
What's it called?
High Rocks.
High Rocks.
What's that?
I'm so ready. It's like it's
I
not
kind of want to do it too,
CrossFit,
but like, anyway.
but it's similar. It's like group fitness class sort of style. It's it's like 8 kilometers of running involved, not at once, but like it's in increments. And then I don't really know what else is involved, but like
I'm trying to break the cycle of like training stairs. So
Yeah.
I'm doing yoga.
do some salsa dancing.
breath classes.
Honestly, do some salsa. I'm honestly, once I'm recovered from my boob job, I'm gonna do some friggin' pole dancing
Maybe we'll
or
all
like
come
some
out and do
heel
it together.
classes.
Yeah.
Those sexy heel classes, man. Oh my god, I'm gonna feel so empowered.
Oh God. Yeah. Well, I think if we can take anything out of this podcast, it's just that set yourself up for success as well. Do it for the right reasons. Have someone who backs you and have a good environment around you as well, and someone that you know can obviously get you where you want to be, that appreciates your goals as much as you do.
And a good circle.
And a good circle. Yeah. Good environment. I think
really
that's
good
everything.
circle.
Don't let the voices take over.
Facts.
Anyone negative, get rid of them.
Yep. And I appreciate all you guys for coming on as well. I think it's been a really good episode that a lot of people will find a lot of value in. So I appreciate you guys like coming and taking that time as well to chat about it.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All of our
Tabby.
inboxes are always open.
Yes. If
anyone
you
ever
if you want to
needs
find any of us
Oh,
on
yeah,
Instagram, do
true.
you want to mention your
Yeah.
Instagram names?
To Taylor Maddison, double T.
What is mine? No, Ruby Roylance _
Mine's _ Laura, 2 A's at the end, Young, 2 A's at the end.
Why do we make it so difficult?
There you go. So yeah, if you need to message any of us, always we're all pretty open books, so feel free. But yes, that is episode 3 of Tabby Talks, where we chat all things business, fitness, lifestyle, and a little bit of shit. Thank you.